All right, and we are live. So today's date, September 12th, 2018, and this is how the Frack We Got Here. Thank you all guys for watching. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and as always on all the Frack We Got Here, we try to take the information and news that you see around today and try to make sense of it all, and actually try to dig deep into the truth among the bullshit. So before I get started about this, I do have to say this is an adult podcast, which means adult content, adult language will be used. And at the same time, there may be language or videos that may be too graphic for young viewers. Viewer discretion advised. If you don't want your kids seeing this, or you basically may not be up for this, now would be the perfect time to go ahead and make the necessary adjustments. All right, so everybody did. We hope you did. If not, okay, here we go. So I know usually when I start, I usually start out the fact of the matter is that every time we do talk about how the Frack We Got Here, we do talk about the fact of what the fuck has Trump done now, which honestly, I'm starting to consider calling that on the show, what the fuck has Trump did now. But we're not going to go to Trump like I did last week. I said, we're not going to immediately go into Trump immediately. But there is another thing that has bothered me, and it has bothered me for some time. You would be remiss to know that there's police shootings, and the fact that officers, aside from just some recent stories, are now starting to be seeing crimes. I mean, there was one officer, I forgot the damn story, up north that was being charged with first-degree murder of shooting a black person. The actual Dallas PD, which is the story I'm getting into now, is also starting to look in these charges. Now, I am not saying that at one point that I'm finally happy that we're going to see maybe some progression in these officers that basically murder black people are finally going to be treated like the criminals they are. But this interesting case I'm going to bring up, because if you don't know who both of them, and I was going to try to repeat this man's name, and I feel sorry about it. Botham Jean. If he's the most recent story, he's the most recent story, and the fact of the matter is just that this young man was doing nothing more than sitting in his home, and a police officer, or police woman, I should say, entered the home because she says it was her home, gave verbal commands to a person. They didn't respond, and she used lethal force, shot him twice in the torso and killed him. It wasn't until she turned the lights on that as she claims, she realized this wasn't her apartment. So many things wrong with that. Number one, how would you not know? Number two, you're in my house. Now that's the thing I know. This thing a lot of people don't understand. And a lot of people are going like, why would he listen to your commands? You broke into his house. You're the intruder. Why does the person who lives there have to listen to you? And at the same time, in typical police fashion, why in the world do you have to turn around and use lethal force? Because a lot of the things that she was saying didn't add up, didn't make sense. And the end of it all was a cold-blooded murder. Yeah, Thomas, it was saying that she was dating the man, but the video I'm about to show, where other people are now coming forward about this story. So let me go ahead and play this video, because, yeah, they were talking about the bitch, she had a key and whatnot. But check this out. This is what they've come up with so far.
And inside his own apartment in Dallas grew tense overnight. A Dallas Morning News journalist captured an officer firing what appeared to be a pepper ball gun into the crowd. More than 100 people gathered to demand justice for Botham John. The 26-year-old was shot last week by off-duty police officer Amber Geiger. Omar Villafranca is at the Dallas apartment complex where it all happened. Omar, good morning.
Nora, good morning. Geiger is charged with manslaughter after what happened at this apartment complex. But demonstrators say that is not enough. Her case now heads to a grand jury where those charges could be bumped up to murder. Dozens of demonstrators gathered outside Dallas Police Headquarters Monday evening, demanding justice for Botham Jean. Dallas County District Attorney Faith Johnson.
We will make certain that justice is done in this case.
According to an arrest warrant, Geiger told investigators that she went to what she thought was her third-floor apartment. Instead, she went to Jean's fourth-floor apartment directly above hers. Geiger says her door was ajar and she saw a large silhouette inside. After giving verbal commands that were ignored, she fired her handgun twice, striking both of them once in the torso. It wasn't until Geiger turned on the lights and called 911 that she realized she was at the wrong apartment. Attorneys for Jean's family say 2 witnesses told them details that contradict Geiger's account. They heard knocking down the hallway, followed by a woman's voice that they believe to be Officer Geiger saying, "Let me in, let me in." The family's attorneys say one of the witnesses then heard gunshots, followed by a man's voice. What we believe to be the last words of both of them, John, which was, "Oh my God, why did you do that?" Allison John wants to know what happened to her son.
I'm not satisfied that we have all the answers.
There is really no reason why a mother should have to wait until the conclusion of an investigation to know what happened to our child.
The Texas Rangers are leading this investigation while the Jean family is planning for a very large funeral on Thursday. Gail?
All right. Thank you very much, Omar. A lot of questions.
So, yeah, a lot of questions. A lot of questions indeed. A lot of questions. So, the fact of the matter is that, okay, her apartment's on the 4th floor, but yet she went to the 3rd floor. The door was ajar, but witnesses say that all the keys and whatnot, the doors there are designed not to be ajar. They either close, either they close, or if you try to keep them open, they still close. So there's no way the door was ajar. On top of that, she said she saw a large silhouette, but from other news sites about what they've seen, that the person that both of them John was actually killed on the couch with his back turned to the door. So again, there's way too many ways of how much bullshit this truly is that this officer's trying to pull. Now, the one thing that did bug me about that story is the fact that the Texas Rangers are looking into this. Now, I'm sorry. The Texas Rangers are a glorified cowboy law enforcement. You know, I understand that if you watch Walker Texas Ranger, or you were stuck with grandmas that watch Walker Texas Ranger, or still watch Walker Texas Ranger, they're romanticizing this law enforcement that isn't cops per se. Yeah, I did see the pictures of them online together, Thomas, and the thing about it is though, it was forced entry. They said the bitch had a key. Contradicted that fact that she was actually, it got to the point where it was actually forced entry. Because basically when they did forensics on the door was open. The door was actually had some structural damage to it. So it is forced entry, even though she says she has a key. But again, how do you explain going to the wrong flat on a different floor? It's basically murder. But fuck Chuck Norris. But yeah, I mean, the whole thing about it is she actually requested the Texas Rangers take over the case. I have never seen where a law enforcement officer that's being investigated for a murder turns around and says, "Oh, I don't want local PD to look into it. I want the Texas Rangers to look into it." I wish I had that kind of clout to where I could sit there and request for a whole completely different law enforcement to look into it. But the Dallas PD chief, who was a black woman, has sat there and said, "Yeah, we're going to look into this." Even the DA, district attorney, is like, I would love to see what they do, because it should be bumped up to murder. It has everything about murder written about it. Yes, they dated. Yes, for all reports, he broke up with her. But at the same time, you had motive, means, and opportunity. That's second-degree murder. You just don't go to somebody's flat thinking it's yours because y'all live in the same building and happen to mistake that. Are they any better? This is Texas PD we're talking about. Yeah, they're not any better. I mean, like I said, a cop should not be able to make requests to have a different outside of, because really this should be an FBI case. I mean, by all intents and purposes and procedures, should be an FBI case. But like I said, it's going to a grand jury, so we'll see how that shakes out. Now, I used to say before I saw a lot of cops start being charged, a lot of them start going to jail or just flat out being hit with the book. Like I said, It may happen. It may get put up. It may get knocked up to murder, and then she might be spending the rest of her life in jail, because they always sit there and say, if you kill a law enforcement officer, yeah, you never get out of jail. It should be the same way for a law enforcement officer that kills somebody in cold blood and makes it like a murder and tries to cover it up. They should spend the rest of their lives in jail. It should be the same as it is for them breaking the law against us. But the craziest thing about this, and I usually don't go on to NRA, I like to call them, the fascist organization that is pretty much the reason why I call some gun nuts ammosexuals. Here's the thing they always try to do. And as I play this video, you're going to see why I shook my head about this whole thing.
Joining us now to talk about this, veteran Green Beret and NRA Kerry Guard Director of Operations and Lead Instructor, Jeff Houston. Jeff, it's good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Jennifer.
So this story, I never, two things that I never like to do. I never like to just run out and state something unequivocally without all of the facts of the matter being present, and you can look at everything at hand and then make an informed judgment. But secondly, I always really hesitate to do Monday morning quarterback on law enforcement. But there are a lot of things that really stand out here. And the first and foremost, something that you actually mentioned when we've done Kerry Guard training previously, is simple situational awareness. 15 hours, it's a long shift. Coming back in the evening, you park on the wrong level. Just to be plain, that's sloppy and reckless. What are your thoughts on this? And just from with your training, is that feasible? Can you be so tired that you miss bright colors and you forget where you live?
Well, Dana, like you said, there's a lot of questions here, and we want answers, because this is just ridiculous. Like, this just seems obviously totally unnecessary, and there is multiple failure points along the way here. And it starts with, just like you said, situational awareness. Obviously, she parked on the wrong floor. Failure point number one. Starts walking down a hallway that's a different color with different types of floor mats. Failure point number two. Puts her key in the door. Even if you put your key in the door, if it's not the right key, it's not even going to turn. So, the key didn't turn. Doesn't matter. Okay, door's unlocked. Now you're walking in. Obviously, you should be able to recognize, okay, he doesn't have the same furniture, layout, or same furniture, period. So just failure point after failure point of failing to be situationally aware. Like you said in Kerry Guard training, we highlight situational awareness as one of the things that can keep us safest.
Right. No, and that's it. One of the other things that seems kind of extraordinary to me, when you go into somebody's house, things smell different, right? Granted, the lights are off. It's still going to kind of look different. It's going to kind of feel different. It's going to smell different, because there's different stuff and different people that live there. And I would just think, I don't know, maybe I'm assuming too much. And granted, 15-hour shift, that's a long shift, but still, your senses hit you before anything else does. And that, I don't know, maybe I'm missing something, but that seems that would obviously wake you up.
Yeah, you would think so. And 15-hour shift, yeah, that's a long day. And, the job that a police officer has is often strenuous and can take a toll on you. But look, after 15 hours of hard work, one should not be in such a state of, discoherence that you're walking in not knowing that you're in your own place. So there's just something strange going on here. Not happy with this, obviously. A guy is dead that did not need to be. So the Rangers will do a good job of investigating this, but it's just a tragic thing.
Right. This could have been very different if Botham Jean had been, say, he was a law-abiding gun owner and he saw somebody coming into his apartment. I don't think there's any context in that the action would have been justified. If I see somebody coming into my house and I'm not expecting them and they're walking in like they own the place, I would act to defend myself. And this could have been very differently had he actually had a firearm on him. Maybe it would be a different individual. She might be the one carried out.
Yeah, 100%. And that would have made almost more sense, right? Some unknown person comes into your home, unannounced, uninvited, and obviously displays a firearm. This definitely could have gone the wrong way real quick. She was still in uniform, thankfully. Hopefully would have been offended if it was the other way around. But it's just tragic, and there's no excuse for it. You got to use all your senses, like you pointed out, to be aware of your surroundings. And then, look, there's 4 major firearm safety rules. And we talk about these 4 safety rules in carry guard training. You see them everywhere you go. One of them is know your target, right? Know your target. So, she saw a person in a room, that she didn't know. And it sounds to me like she probably panicked, clearly did not have all the information that she needed to take a shot.
Okay. So I can't stress this. Okay. I can't stress this enough. Thomas, yeah, that NRA does have their own TV station. It's actually a streaming service. But really, Thomas, this is why you don't give every woman that solid gold dicking. I'm sure if they have the extent, really, grammar, Thomas, grammar, sir. I get what you're saying about that, but again, it's what bothered me about that is that the NRA decided that, and of course, on NRA TV, they're going to be conservative leaning, which means they lean right. But of course, every situation in their mind is if the other guy had a gun, if the other guy, and it was interesting because the specific reason I played that was because you had to hear, well, if he had a gun, the situation would have been different. How in the blue hell would the situation be any different? Because if she's okay, let's take that scenario for a second. Let's say both of them has a weapon. Let's say old girl enters the apartment. Let's say he doesn't know she's a cop. As far as he knows, someone's trying to break into the apartment. So what does he do? He turns around. He has his gun. Does he sit there and say, intruder, stop, freeze? You're in my apartment. You're in my domicile. Stop or I'll shoot. No. He turns around and blasts him. And then he realizes he shot a cop. And then how does the news line read? How does the news line read from there? Individual defends his home but shoots innocent cop. And then the cop will be, let's just say if that happens, then it becomes different. Then it becomes, well, the cop was doing her job. Why was the person armed? Or why would he sit there and fire on somebody if he had nothing to worry about? It's just the police. Could you imagine the headline from that if that happened? A guy, because the thing about it is that's actually to the point. It's actually happened before, if memory serves me right. It actually happened a story here in Tennessee where a man was basically killed. Granted, he was armed, but the police had the wrong house. The police were redacting a search warrant, and they went to the wrong house. The older gentleman was simply in his home. The police broke in. He didn't know what to do. Trigger happy police shot the guy, shot and killed him. Survived by his wife. And it's amazing to me how people sit there and say, we should trust the police. I am telling you this as a black man, and I'm pretty sure BJ, Thomas, Vaughn, you guys all who are watching, everybody of a minority, we don't trust the police. There's nothing to assume. There's nothing to give us that safety of police. You know why? Because you could be out and about and be shot because of a trigger happy cop. You could be in your own apartment, your own home. Cops will still roll on in and shoot you just the same. So of course, there's a trust issue here, especially with this officer, because we hope to God the officer doesn't get away with this shit. But, previous history has taught us otherwise. I mean, apparently, if you comply, you get shot. You do the right thing, you get shot. You run away from them, you get shot. So even if your back is turned to them, like old boy, Mr. Botham John, he was shot. The problem is, I said about trust. You can't ask a people, a group of minorities. I mean, let's be specific. Let's be real specific right now. You can't ask black men to trust the police when they've been pretty much treating us like it's deer season. You can't. You sit there and say, well, why don't you trust us? Because you have half a year's worth of training and enough ammo, and you basically have all the gear of a small platoon. You have mace, you have body armor, you have backup, you have body cams, you have everything non-lethal. But what do you go with whenever you see guys like me? You go for the one time. Because you know why? because that's what you want to do from Jump Street. So it amazes me so in the NRA when they sit there and say, well, if the black guy had a gun, which I think it's funny that they don't mention the fact that, yes, if the African-American that the woman walked in on had a gun, it's very strategic how the NRA TV, the NRA organization really labels stuff. Because you see, as soon as she sat there and said, well, if he had a gun, it would have been different. But she turns around and immediately corrects herself. You know why? You just gave a news bit. You just pretty much told the NRA's answer to everything is to arm the other guy. That is the thing that you don't get. I don't trust the cop. I get you, BJ. I don't trust the cops like, what did you say, BJ? I don't trust the cops like Donald Trump trusts Mexicans. Well, he leaves them in his hotel. He leaves them clean up his hotels. Vaughn would say, ha ha, the snake asked the rabbit, don't you trust me? Shit. And we'll get no repercussions to killing an unarmed black man. And they really want to say, yeah, really do, BJ. They really want to say if the thug had a, they really want to see what they do with us. It's basically character assassination. They understand if we were killed in cold blood and it was a situation where we didn't have to lose our lives, they use character assassination to muddy up the waters before it even gets to a jury. They've been doing that with every murder since Emmett Till. Like if they know they killed in cold blood, they already know how to turn around and spin the story to make it seem like the person who is the killer really the victim, and really the victim has somehow brought these circumstances upon themselves, which that's the spin, that's the gab. They want them to sit there and say, well, why didn't you listen to the cop? The cop was giving commands. If it's my house, why the fuck do I gotta listen to you? You're the one that rolled up in the wrong joint. You're the one that rolled up into my home, and you told people, because I can't defend myself because you made sure of that, is that I can't sit there and you're gonna sit there and tell us lie about, well, he was just in I was in the wrong apartment. So your poor decision and obviously not knowing where you live cost another man his life. If that's the case, because you took that man's life, your life should be in forfeit. I'm not asking for her to get the death penalty, but honestly, the rest of her freedom is over. She should be in jail for life. That's how it should be, because there's no amount of jail time that you can actually put to this to equal the loss of a life. The only close equivalent would be as if the person themselves were no longer a cop, didn't get pension, and were in jail for the rest of their life. That's as close as it gets. It doesn't give the family comfort, but it gives the family some justice knowing that person is not going to sit there and not be a cop anymore. Not like old girl who sat there who's giving classes on how to survive these type of events. That was sickening, and I covered that in my last podcast. What do you say, BJ? You don't accidentally walk in someone else's house. Oh, no, that's a murder, dude. That was murder, flat out murder. And that's why I say guys like you, guys like Thomas and myself and Vaughn and all of us, we have to be, unfortunately, more vigilant. And I got to the point that I was like, damn, if they sitting there entering doors, now I need to make sure I'm gonna have my door reinforced like on American Gangster. I'm gonna sitting there and say, why you got three concrete choke beams across your door? Because y'all motherfuckers will try. And if I'm not allowed to tell my story, y'all will certainly assassinate my character in the news to where it makes it look like I got something to hide, and y'all did the world a service by taking me out. Do that with every other black guy. I mean, look at the list. But also, not to go too far into that, but there was another story that happened too, where, like I said, we are getting it's to the point to where I've told really black people, because let's be honest, that's the ones they're targeting right now. We got to be careful where we go. And I hate to say that. You would think that we should be able to walk and go anywhere as we please within reason, especially if we live there or if it's open and things of that nature. Now, given there are some areas that we don't go into, simply put, because we know the danger. That's like, I'm gonna be honest with you, in Tennessee, there's a place called Pulaski, Tennessee, and Paris, Tennessee. Now, Paris, Tennessee has the world's greatest fish fry. I used to love going there as a kid, pay $5-7, all the catfish you want to eat. Good old times, good music. But here's the one thing I've learned about Paris, Tennessee. You treat that shit like it's pretty much Transylvania. If you start seeing that sun setting around 2 or 3 p.m., time to go. Fill up the tank so you ain't got to stop nowhere, because trust me, you do not want to be in Paris, Tennessee or Pulaski, Tennessee at night, especially by your motherfucking self. Why? Because those two areas are KKK territory, especially Pulaski. Because those folks down there have no problem letting you know where they stand. And the only reason they know that because they got strength in numbers. But again, going back to the point about us not putting ourselves in situations that will cause us harm. And you're right, PJ. You're right, BJ, about cops are professionally. Yeah, you're right. They are Negro hunters. There's no way around that. All the little kids are Drake shade, though, in Paris. You would think so, but I don't. But I still don't stick around in that area. I don't. It's just the only reason I'll say that, because the culture up there hasn't changed. Because they will gladly still treat you like it's duck season up there. But the reason why I tell the story is because it's another story that recently came out about a group of students being held up by the so-called good guy with a gun thing. And for those that don't know what that is, this is why I say like groups like the NRA and really gun activists try to say is that the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. And that's bullshit. Because if a good guy has a gun, then you're expecting him to defend you against the bad guy with a gun. In every situation where a person with a gun was in the vicinity or in the actions of it, it actually made the situation worse. And by worse, I mean other people got hurt or killed. So basically a good guy with a gun against a bad guy with a gun is this theoretical or romanticized cowboy bullshit they try to pass. Here's the problem when you have people out here who are open carrying and really can cause situations like this. And this is the situation before I play this video. It's these individuals that are literally just sitting there. I mean, I'm not sitting there, but they're just entering a building. And this is what happened.
You don't even get in this elevator. You're not man enough to just go about your day. This is my elevator. Do you own the building? Let me know. You got a key for this building? We got key. We got key. You think I'm fucking kidding?
Now, I know that was basically what happened in that situation was that pretty much he wanted to be the fucking gatekeeper, because there was these individuals who were going to go visit a friend in a building, right? Waiting for the guy to show up. They're about to waiting for the guy. They're about to go in the elevator. This, I guess, so-called neighborhood watch, whatever you want to call him, Zimmerman copycat, decides that, oh, no, you don't live here, so you're not getting the elevator. And then he decides to sit there and tell them. Now, here's why I sit there and say this is a situation that's the Trump effect. Because some people believe that, okay, you're going to sit there and police. You're going to police your area, but you're not law enforcement. But you're going to sit there and threaten the firearm that you're carrying with use of lethal force against individuals. Now, if I was them, and I'm going to be honest, if I was them, I would so turn around and that honestly my first call would have been to the police, because flat out you just brandished your firearm at me. Not only did you brandish you showed your firearm at me. Now you're giving intent to use, and because you're giving intent to use, that tells me that you're going to use it. And if you're going to use it, then no, I'm going to sit there and that's why I then tell the police, oh, he's going to shoot us. He's got a gun. And then that becomes another issue. But at the same time, it's amazing to me that this is the reality that we now face. And this is what bothers me, is that they feel empowered to turn around and use the gun as a threat, just like they use the cops as a threat. I mean, I mean, anybody remember just a few weeks ago, there was a rash of, Permit Patty and Poolside Bill and all them, using the cops as a weapon against kids and adults and minorities, simply put, because they know they can call the police because there's no punishment in that. Again, this behavior of just doing things without consequences is starting to spread. And it's starting to spread because now you see other people be like, well, no, just like the genius right there. Oh, you can't get in this elevator. It's my elevator. You heard one of the guys ask, oh, is this your building? And you didn't answer. He says, you're still not getting in this elevator. I'm like, well, dude, if you don't own the building, you don't own the elevator, you can't tell me I can't get on the elevator. But then as soon as they were like, dude, you can't tell us shit, he turns around and he reaches for the one time. And that is the mentality. That's where I say, this whole thing about defending yourself and using a gun and things of that nature in situations where it doesn't need to be used because you don't own it. It would be different if it was your building. It would be different if you actually were the landowner, because you can, outside of tenants, tell folks where they can and cannot go. You're not. Hence why he's fired. The funny part was he got fired from his job mainly because the video went viral. And I don't feel bad he lost his job, because that he made a choice and he should live with those consequences. But I'm saying, for the simple fact of the matter, as Black people, we have to be extra careful. I hate to say that, but we have to be extra careful, because either folks are going to try to kill you in your own home, or they'll even allow you to go on elevators. I said, are y'all trying to go back to segregation? Because we ain't. That shit's not happening. But what do you say, BJ? Unless I got a Tommy gun and full body armor, I'm not going in Paris or Pulaski. Yeah, I can't argue that. If I'm in a group like that, someone's verbally going to engage him, and I'm still on him and getting that gun away from him. And to be honest, BJ, when I saw that video, I thought that was going to happen. I mean, there were 3 of them and 1 of him. I thought one of them were going to try to disarm him, and I can't blame him for that. I cannot blame anybody for that, because you got a situation to where a guy's got a gun and it can escalate very quickly, very wrong, very fast. I'm not saying it's a bright idea, because there's 3 of y'all and 1 of him, and yeah, you can all rush him, but same time, when that gun goes off, the bullet's not going to care where it hits. So I kind of have to give I have to give the guys credit. They didn't rush him, they kept their distance, and they made sure to get it all on video. So old boy's out of a job and they're still breathing. So as far as I'm concerned, that's a win. But with that being said, we're going to switch gears a little bit. So for all those who are watching this live, and especially if you're over in the North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia area, please, for the love of God, get out of the area. Hurricane Florence is nothing to fuck with. I mean, it's already a Category 4, Category 5 hurricane, and it's supposed to be making landfall in South Carolina, I believe, by Thursday evening. So for all those who are watching this, or, somehow watching this, and I thank you for watching it, but I do hope to God that you get out, because you need to get the fuck out. But the thing I've noticed about this is, and this is where I say we finally get to our focal point of usually these podcasts, good old Agent Orange. And what did you guys say? Guns provide punk ass bitches false confidence. Yeah, you're right about that. I'm not disarming him. I'm punching him into the shower. And that isn't the guarantee they'll make it out alive. Yeah, that's true, guys. But that's why I'm saying we gotta be, like you said, Thomas. We actually have to be smart about using our heads, because you never know when the hell, that shit could escalate. Oh, it's confirmed Category 5 now. Okay, so for all those on the East Coast line, that's literally get the fuck out. But the reason why I'm talking about this, aside from saying, Hurricane Florence is nothing to fuck with, Trump decides to talk about his success. And this is where I shake my head a little bit. So let me play this so you guys can see it.
Take from what happened in Puerto Rico, how do we apply the lessons you took from Puerto Rico?
Well, I think Puerto Rico was incredibly successful. Puerto Rico was actually our toughest one of all, because it's an island, so you can't truck things onto it. Everything's by boat. We moved a hospital into Puerto Rico, a tremendous military hospital in the form of a ship. You know that. And I actually think, and the governor's been very nice, and if you ask the governor, he'll tell you what a great job. I think probably the hardest one we had by far was Puerto Rico because of the island nature. And I actually think it was one of the best jobs that's ever been done with respect to what this is all about. Puerto Rico got hit not with one hurricane, but with two. And the problem with Puerto Rico is their electric grid and their electric generating plant was dead before the storms ever hit. It was in very bad shape. It was in bankruptcy. Had no money. It was largely, closed. And when the storm hit, they had no electricity essentially before the storm. And when the storm hit, that took it out entirely. The job that FEMA and law enforcement and everybody did, working along with the governor in Puerto Rico, I think was tremendous. I think that Puerto Rico was an incredible unsung success. Texas, we have been given A+ for. Florida, we've been given A+ for. I think in a certain way, the best job we did was Puerto Rico, but nobody would understand that. I mean, it's harder to understand. It was a very hard thing to do because of the fact they had no electric. Before the storms hit, it was dead, as you probably know. So we've gotten a lot of receptivity, a lot of thanks for the job we've done in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is very important. And by the way, speaking of Puerto Rico, and they're going to be affected pretty soon by something else that's on its way. Is that right?
Potentially, Hurricane Isaac right now is tracking south of the island, but we have several thousand people inside Puerto Rico right now working on long-term recovery that have shifted to the response mode to monitor as Isaac passes to the south.
We do not want to see Hurricane Isaac hit Puerto Rico. That's all we need. But we have a big hurricane out there, and it's sort of skirting along Puerto Rico and the edge of Puerto Rico. That would not be good.
Okay, so, okay, if you guys saw me doing this, you're right. Yeah, BJ, trust me. You watch enough videos of Trump, you're bound to have migraines. Yeah, his usage words, you're right, Thomas. It's like watching a middle school student give a public speaking announcement. It really is, because apparently he doesn't know anything past seventh. He doesn't know anything past fourth grade. And it's amazing that this is why I say this is the age of spin. This is where he sits there and goes, oh, well, we did great in Puerto Rico. No, you didn't. There's still a power issue with millions. There's still a power issue with hundreds of thousands of individuals. The death toll that you gave of 64 was actually over 3,000 and still counting. And at the same time, you were discovered to have 1 million water bottles sitting on an airfield in Puerto Rico that was never delivered to its inhabitants. At the same time, the mayor there and the governor there both hate your guts. So I don't know who's giving you the grade or the praise, because last time I checked, Trump, just like Melania not touching you, you praise yourself. You're used to doing it by yourself. So it's amazing that you're sitting there and going, well, we've had such a great success. No, you didn't. You treated Puerto Rico the same way you treat Flint, Michigan. And it's funny that he says Houston and Florida. Florida is still recovering. Houston is still recovering. Katrina was almost damn near a decade ago. And guess what? It's still recovering. As far as New Orleans, it's still recovering. So it's amazing that he's on this assumption that if we go down there, take a few weeks, build everything back up, everything is fine. No, you dipshit. It takes a little bit longer. And it's funny where you say, Vaughn, and next one, listen to Butter Toast bitch lead up with his lies. I actually, the funny part is I have yet to still find a video blurb about that. And yeah, he is a special kind of dickhead. But the reason why I sit there, and it's amazing to me that he is so misaligned that it's comical. It's almost to the point to where I don't want to sit there and really try to make sense of it all, because there was another thing that he said that still racks my brain a little bit. And I apologize, because this is probably going to hurt some brain cells, but you guys need to hear this too.
That are in the way and in the most jeopardy would be Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, that area. And again, they haven't seen anything like what's coming at us in 25, 30 years. maybe ever. It's tremendously big and tremendously wet. Tremendous amounts of water.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. Hurricane Florence is extremely big, extremely wet. Extremely big and extremely wet. But you know the funny thing about Puerto Rico? You know what Trump will tell you the funny thing about Puerto Rico is? Puerto Rico's an island. Did you know that? And I just want to sit there. I couldn't be a presidential aide right now. Because could you imagine the presidential aide literally explaining this to Trump? Well, President Trump, Hurricane Florence, is it a big hurricane? Yes, it's a big hurricane. It's a category 5. Well, what's category 5? Well, category 5 is a very troublesome storm. Oh, so it's big. Yeah, yes, Mr. President, it's very big. Well, that means it's also going to be very wet. Yes, Mr. President, it's going to be very wet. So when I heard him say that, it's like he repeated it. It's bad if you say it out loud. It is completely terrible when you double down and repeat it. Yes, anybody who has been through 5th grade science knows that a hurricane isn't small. And apparently dry hurricanes exist because, as you can tell, Hurricane Florence is very wet. I'm trying to avoid saying every innuendo that I can say about that right now, but it is amazing to me how out of sync Trump truly is. And no ever say require the word tremendous. Yeah, you're right about that. Trump dumber than class lobotomy patients. Damn. You dumb Dingleberry. Wow. Donald Trump is what happens when you let Havel McGee into the White House. But here's the one other thing I want to talk about that as well, because there was another story that came out about this. And this part is what makes me cringe. It makes me wonder why relief efforts in New Orleans and every other areas are slow. So come to find out, there's a little bit of a budget problem. And by budget problem, I mean, you can hear this.
Tonight, Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon has gotten his hands on a document that has never been seen publicly before, which appears to show that Donald Trump's Department of Homeland Security requested to transfer about $10 million out of the budget for FEMA this year and into the coffers of ICE to support ICE's detention and deportation programs for immigrants. Senator Merkley's office believed the transfer of these funds happened this summer, just in time for hurricane season. Senator Merkley will join us live in just a moment, but I want to show you the document that his office has obtained. I have it here. I think we can put it on screen. Thank you. It's titled, as you can see, Department of Homeland Security Fiscal Year 2018 Transfer and Reprogramming Notifications. In other words, this is the whole list of money that Homeland Security took from one agency and moved to another. And the practice of transferring monies between agencies, that is not unusual in itself, but it is unusual to see in one of these documents a whole column full of money being deleted from the FEMA budget less than a year after Hurricane Maria, on the cusp of this year's hurricane season, apparently to bolster the government's ability to lock up and deport immigrants. Nearly $10 million taken out of FEMA, almost all of it going to ICE in order to fund more detention beds and ICE's transportation and removal program.
So the funny part about that whole thing, and I know, Thomas, I sat there and saw what you said, he'll deny any of this. Really, this is going to be hard enough because I said that's an official government document. I understand it's a government document and they've already done it. And here's where I say is the hypocrisy of it all. The hypocrisy of it all is just that you're telling me that giving money to a government institution that has terrible balancing the book skills that you just now gave $10 million more to, so they can keep searching and detaining and deporting immigrants is more important than being ready for emergency crisis when it comes to acts of God such as hurricane seasons. Am I the only one that just wonders at this point, does Trump just like destroying stuff? I mean, seriously, aside from his buildings, is it like the only thing that has withstood the test of time? Because everything he else has done has literally sat there and just, well, for lack of better words, fell, bankrupt, bought out, pretty much became crap. So it's interesting now where it's like, it's amazing where no one's going to go to him and no one's going to sit there and say, no one's going to sit there and say, well, could you explain why we just gave ICE $20 more million? In the same sense, like, why do we just give the Pentagon more money? They can't account for $1.7 trillion over the last 3 decades, but we're still pumping in money. We're now giving ICE, who can't account for their own, they can't account for their own budget, but let's give them 10 million because, you know, they're doing the job of getting rid of all these immigrants, which, by the way, all the Department of Immigration and Customs Services that actually detain children are now to full capacity again. So that's right. We are still camping children. And it's amazing that it's not said on the news no more. But guess what? We're still got these kids in these camps. Because for some odd reason, we don't want to keep these families together. Because America. But it's always interesting now that, yeah, you're about to have a Category 5 hurricane with a Category 3 right behind it, about to make landfall, and you're too busy turning around and saying that we still need to get rid of all these immigrants, even though you have honestly no legal reason to do so except to basically pacify your own voter base. And wait, Savon, burning down the house to save the garage. Yeah, pretty much. It is pretty much trying to save the garage, and you're pretty much ready to let the house go to do it. But another thing that I wanted to bring up about that, because I said it's all about exposure. No video on this, but I did want to show this because this honestly needs to be said. Because I don't know if you guys were paying attention to the last time the Republicans passed a new tax law, a tax package, which basically wound up didn't actually help us out. It actually helped out the top percent because everybody else got pretty much paid more. I mean, if you looked at your paychecks, you didn't get anything. You probably have most folks actually got $1.50 raise in their paychecks. While unless you're above the 250,000 mark and up, you probably saw bonuses and whatnot. And these tax breaks that they put in place that were supposed to be job creators have done nothing. As in fact, they've actually added more to the actual national budget deficit than any other president combined. So if there's anything Trump is good at, he's good at collecting debt. Let's just be honest. So the reason why I want to bring that story up was because of this. Because this new price tag that's coming out means that, again, it's tax cuts for the wealthy. That's tax cuts for the rich. But how they're paying for all these tax cuts, you guessed it, it's going to be us. Because the reason why, and especially if you're like me and you're still a college student, still doing all this, college loans, family assistance, food assistance, SNAP benefits, things of that nature, they're all about to be reduced if this plan goes through. Because the funny part is about Republicans, and I've even talked to some here in my own home state of Tennessee, Republicans don't like being questioned when they give a plan because they have to explain that plan. And for a lot of them, they don't know what that plan is. So in this page I'm showing you right here was that the one thing that I wanted to highlight about this plan is that it would basically add $630 billion to the federal deficit by 2029. And that's on top of the $1.9 trillion that the previous tax plan is expected to cost when they factor in everything. So let me get this straight. 1.9 trillion, 630 billion. We will be closer. Our national deficit will be over 3 trillion. We will never get out of owing China at this rate. But this comes from the group they call themselves they like to call themselves fiscally conservative, and that's bullshit because they are bought. And I'm not saying the Democrats aren't bought either. I am saying that at least on the Democrats, we were actually doing much better than we were under Republicans because I always said it best. whenever there's a Republican president, and history has proven this right, we basically are in debt. Wages are crappy. But the only people that are happy about this, the only people who are happy about a time when a Republican president's in power is businesses, corporations, and those with a lot of money, because they know they won't be spending. I mean, hell, look at Amazon. Amazon's over $1.7 trillion now. Its workers don't even get its workers for that company still have to get family assistance. Walmart's about to hit the 1 trillion mark. Its workers are still on assistance. So that goes to show you that aside from maybe 3 other countries, we are one of, I think, 4 countries in the world that have this anonymous gap between employer and employee. Because employers always cry about, if you tax us, we can't hire people. But employees say, if we can't do our wages, then we can't pay. Who does the government listen to? Whoever pays them. Because you got to think about this for a second, y'all. The banks, when they ran out of money, I think it was almost 11 years ago, when the banks needed a bailout, and they went to Congress and said, hey, we need money, otherwise shit stops working. They got it. I remember when all the automakers went up to Congress and said they need to be bailed out. I think it was Chrysler, I won't say no, I'm sorry, not Ford. Chrysler, Chevy, and I think like 3 others all went up to Congress and said, the CEOs, mind you, the CEOs of these companies said that we need to get bailed out. And the funny part is they got bailed out. Most recently, the farmers who are now about to experience the pain of those tariffs. And if you don't know what tariffs are basically taxes on goods. And they're about to experience some hard times. But what do? Trump bailed them out too. It is amazing to me how Trump is, how government, not just Agent Orange, but it amazes me how whenever these companies, these people, these individuals, these groups always go to Congress to get bailed out, that they can, and they usually do. But whenever it comes to normal Joes like you and me, we're told tough shit. And you're right, Vaughn. I mean, at this point, it won't be a middle class anymore. It will just basically be, I hate to use a Tyler Perry title, but it'll be the have and the have-nots. Because there is no middle class anymore. Because that is the income gap that is literally crazy to the point to where it's almost, you can't ignore it anymore. Why do you think we still have that fight for 15? Why do you think that the national minimum wage needs to be $15 an hour? It needs to be across the board, because you will not, I'm sorry, unless you're making well over 100 grand, you're not living comfortably. You're not. Most people are a full-time job and a part-time job, and especially if you have kids and you have daycare and doctor bills and insurance, and let's not forget the fact that they've gutted Obamacare. So even though the national health care law is still in effect, Obamacare has been gutted to the point that now it costs people. And now Trump decides that, hey, those ones with pre-existing conditions that didn't count against them, now you do. So again, this is a unchecked, if you really want to be honest about what's going on here, this is an unchecked capitalist society with basically every rule. This is basically how Chernobyl happened. Chernobyl happened because 2 scientists decided they want to be cute and turn off every safety feature in a nuclear reactor. And what happened? Meltdown. Chernobyl is still radioactive, and that was well over 50 years ago. But again, this is what our society has become. It is an oligarch capitalist running off the rails and without regulation. I won't be surprised. I won't be surprised if we do run into the Great Depression, because that's how the first Great Depression actually happened. That there was no regulations and capitalism was just one greedy bitch. That's just being honest. And we say, BJ, all the debt we get into must be into the winning Trump talks about. Trump thinks that he's winning because he's the hero. Like, every villain thinks they're the hero in their own story. He thinks he is because he thinks he's doing great. It's almost like, you guys remember Gladiator, right? Remember at Walking Phoenix when he was going through the crowd was just booing him and saying, you're nothing like your father and all this crap. And he just looked around and he thought he was just being admired. He thought he was being cheered. That's Trump. Trump is pretty much going through these crowds And he only goes to areas that adore him. He doesn't go. Here's the funny thing I've said about Trump, and I said before, and here's why I say I use President Obama as a measuring board. President Obama took very few vacations his first term. He's actually visited several military bases, especially in Afghanistan and Iraq. And at the same time, he actually basically did a worldwide tour all within his first term. Trump barely got to go to United Kingdom. He barely got to go to Singapore. He barely got to go to South Korea. He barely he was about to go to Ireland, but Ireland pretty much gave him the biggest "you're not welcome" I've ever seen toward an American individual. But you know where he did? I mean, but I will give Trump one iota. He got to see his role models. He got to see Vladimir Putin, because you guys don't remember, a long time ago, they tried to get Vladimir Putin to come visit the White House. And I think it's kind of odd to have the guy run the show from a different country come visit his summer home. That's all I'm saying. And at the same time, you got to meet Kim Jong-il, which is funny because whatever peace thing that he signed was really bullshit. And then it's like, well, he met with all the congressional leaders. No, he didn't. He met with black preachers and people he liked. He lied to black preachers, but black preachers didn't care because it was a photo op and they wanted to get their name in the books. And they realized they were getting played, but they didn't care because they were still getting money in the collection plate. Tell me I'm wrong. But at the same time, of all things being said, it's all about perception optics. And say it with me, kids, delusional. Yeah, Trump is definitely delusional. There's no wrong about it. But here's the one other thing when I say capitalism is honestly what happens when capitalism goes crazy. And I want to play this video because I think it will basically explain itself. Well, I can't make that up, folks. As you saw, literally a life-saving antibiotic was knocked up 400% because the owner of said antibiotic said he had a moral obligation to raise the price up for profit. And to make this short and sweet, this is the reason why universal health care does not need to be a business. It doesn't. Because socialist medicine is the way of the world for the rest of the world. But for us, it's a profit business. I mean, think about it. You have companies like Cigna, United Healthcare, kind of hard, kind of bad to blank out on help me out here. Well, you guys know all of them. I mean, there's more out there than just those two. But what I'm saying is, these companies, Aetna, and yeah, now I can think of other ones. That's sad. But the thing about this is just that these companies out here are right along with these other pharmaceutical companies, and they are driving up prices on everything from just going to the doctor for copays, for just minor surgeries, things of that nature. And they say they're allowed. And the scary part about this whole thing is that it is legal. It is scary that it's legal. That you would think for something life-saving like antibiotics, insulin for diabetes patients, for lupus and anemic patients, for individuals that need medications to basically survive, that companies can go out there and raise the prices on this stuff and it's legal, but their morality is capitalism. Not the simple fact of the matter is just that you're being dicks, because that's what got Martin Shkreli. I mean, technically it didn't get Martin Shkreli, but it put the spotlight on him about his SEC transactions. Because I like to tell people, say, yeah, Martin Shkreli is a dick, and he is, but he didn't go to jail because he raised the price on a certain drug he purchased. It merely brought the attention of the SEC, and they got him for something else. Now, here's the thing about it. I know a lot of people are going to sit there and say, well, why isn't there a law against this? Simply put, because the people that actually can make the laws are the same people that are bought by Big Pharma. It's almost like, hey, we'll pay you to look the other way. Just trust us to do it. But what do you say, Thomas? You're going, yeah, he doesn't go to hell with gasoline draws on a rocket. What do you say, Vaughn? I work at a hospital. I could barely afford to go to that motherfucker. And that's the thing. And this is why I say, to a certain point, this is why universal socialist medicine is not bad. Canada got it figured out. A whole mess of other countries got it figured out. You know, we're one of 7 countries that still have a market for healthcare. Think about that for a second. We have to have services on healthcare. You have to decide how much you're going to pay. I'm like, that's like saying I feel bad. As I say, I feel bad for, like, say, for instance, if you're a diabetic and you need insulin, let's just say, and I say, God forbid if it happens, the price of insulin gets shot way up, like almost unaffordable. And you're going to have people out there making life-altering decisions just to survive. And that is fucked up. But these pharmaceutical companies can get away with murder because there's no regulation. But, you know, as long as Agent Orange's in office, it's not going to happen, because he'll sit there and say it's fair game. And that's not fair market value. And I've said it once and I'll say it again about healthcare. Healthcare is a for-profit business, and that is the fucking problem. Because the moment you start profiting off pain tells me that you basically don't care about what happens next after that. Because Chris Rock said it best. Chris Rock actually said it better than I can. He said the profit's not in the cure. The profit's in the pain. It's in the management. It's like, I could cure cancer, but I also could give you the drugs that make it comfortable for you to live with cancer. I can keep making that drug, and then, I can silence all the hepatic uses and also, ignore the other cases of vitamin B12 and things of that nature that have proven to kill cancer cells. But, I don't want to make that public, because then I can't make any money off of it, which is why, if you really get into, it's really scary about the simple fact of the matter is just that they treat healthcare the same way that you should not have to treat healthcare insurance the same way you treat a car. That's what it is. Like, don't get me wrong. We all need healthcare. We do, because you don't want to go down for something simple that could have been prevented. But like I said, if you don't want to pay so much to go to the hospital, and then, of course, if you don't have money, then you're in debt. Then that debt racks up, and then it's on your credit report, and it's a never-ending cycle of just simply trying to get out from under. Simply put, because you're still stuck there. So again, it's something that shouldn't. I hope. Yeah, Dr. Seavey. That's why I was trying to think of the guy's name, because Dr. Seavey was actually. I still say to this day he was killed. They could say whatever they want. That man was killed, because he started to speak out about cancer research, about cancer treatments, and actually cancer cures, and they killed that man. You can sit there and say about 6 weeks after Sunday he died of natural causes. That's bullshit. Because a man like him, like I said, it's amazing because, folks, when they talk about certain things, they mysterious something just off happens to them. And it amazes me so that everybody that's always something. I said, look at John F. Kennedy. The first thing, I mean, when President John F. Kennedy, he sat there and said there is an underlying operation to basically undermine every man, woman, and child, and I'm going to spend the rest of my administration trying to find that out. 5 days later, call it what you will. I mean, yeah, natural case of murder, right, BJ. But again, these individuals, like I said, when it comes to healthcare, I want more regulation. I want the capitalist reign to be weighed in. That's what needs to happen. But at the same time, that's what we're stuck with. And I hate that we're stuck with that, because more people are going to wind up being victims of healthcare than they will of the police. That's just honestly, I say it gets to the point now, what's going to kill you first? The lack of healthcare or police or a very jumpy police officer? One of the two. But the last thing, well, two things I want to talk about, because they're two stories, but they're evolving around the same thing. They're evolving around the same thing of perception. Like, for example, the one I want to show here, I don't have a video for it, but I can at least show this. For anybody who's ever seen Blackish, Blackish is probably the most progressively leaning forward shows I've seen out there. I would say the Carmichael show too, but NBC canceled it because they didn't want to agree with Gerard Carmichael. They didn't want to agree with Gerard Carmichael about the direction of the show, and I thought it was very forward. But again, it's the same thing. It's almost the same thing along the lines of when you saw besides Blackish, because Blackish, this is actually the second time an episode has been shelved, because this episode they're talking about, which is too anti-Trump, was basically that there was a monologue in which Anthony Anderson's character was talking to his son, and he was going over, the responses, police shootings, and about Trump. And apparently the ABC execs didn't like it because it was too anti-Trump. And they asked him to go back and redo some scenes. And the director, Kenya Burris, tried, but he sat there and stood his ground and said, fuck that. The show is what it is. I'm not going to change it. So both sides kept going back and forth until finally they just agreed that this episode wouldn't air. It got to the point to where everything was destroyed, and the script, I'm guessing, was shredded and burned because the actors couldn't even get it after that. And that made me wonder, because this isn't the first time it's happened on Blackish. Actually, about several months ago, when the NFL anthem, about the, you don't stand up, boy, kind of thing, was coming out, there was another episode that Blackish sold. So because it was going against the NFL, and of course, ABC decided that they wanted to upset their supreme overlords with the NFL, and decided to shelve that too. So here's the thing that I just don't honestly get, and this is what bothers me so, is just that, when and I'll use an example. I'll use Bush the second version, because let's be honest, when Bush the second was in office, and now that I think about that, it really wasn't that bad compared to what we have now. But if any of you guys remember when the television shows when George Bush was running the show, they went nuts. They went nuts about going off on the president, about making fun of him. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, well, you can't get fooled again. And you remember those bits and everything else. And I remember that every show out there was taking shots. Nobody complained. Nothing was cut off. Nothing was shelved. Everything was allowed. And when President Obama was in office, same thing. I mean, it is amazing to me to where now we have an idiot in charge who actually makes Bush look intelligent. Now, because the ABC execs, because just like NBC, and I wouldn't be surprised if CBS follows. I'm damn sure know that the Rel show on Fox is going to touch this because it's Fox. But anything that is too anti-Trump gets pulled. And that bothers me a little bit, because it goes back to perception. A lot of people, especially those who don't think for themselves, they take information from what they see and they process their own, because they trust whatever media they're watching. Now, people like, everybody that's watching this right now, and I hope you guys are always forward thinkers and you always, you seek out information, you just don't accept it at face value and, make up your own mind. We'll do that. That I have no doubt about. But at the same time, it just gets to the point to where, when are we getting to the point to where now, you can't say anything about the president anymore? Because that's state news. I mean, that's going to basically be Fox. Fox is what state news is. Fox is what state news is, because they'll never bash the president, except that Shep Shepherd guy. And I'm going to be honest, that Shep Shepherd guy on Fox News, I think he's on his way out, because he's been he's kind of like Don Lemon when Don Lemon woke the fuck up, because it's just like, I can't sell this shit on him no more. This is a dumb son of a bitch. Why are we sitting there trying to make him look like he's the second coming of Jesus Christ? He is dumb as a box of shit. Shep Shepherd has been going off the hill so much that I think Fox News is going to probably shelve the guy. But again, this is perception. And the reason why I'm going to perception is going to be the second half of the story. Not that it's about Blackish, but it's about Serena Williams. Now, before I play this video, anybody who, fuck her up. I'm sorry, Vaughn. Deion Cole is funny on that show. Fuck around and get on Netflix. Yeah. Yep. If ABC gives it up. Yeah, BJ, definitely fuck the NFL. I can't argue with that. But so this story, basically I said about perception, comes down to Serena Williams. Now, Serena Williams, I'm sorry, she is the baddest woman in tennis. I mean, her sister ain't no slouch, but Serena and Venus, but two of them combined have had more tennis accolades than almost every woman that has ever played the sport. And I mean, they still playing. They ain't done. But Serena at this point, I mean, Serena's a mom now. At the same time, she was ridiculed because of the suit she had, which actually was helping her to prevent blood clotting. But the tennis association said that she had to change. So here's the other part of it, where they're talking about how they said she accosted the judge at the U.S. Open. So let you guys take a look at it.
Don't tell me to be quiet, okay? When I want to talk, I'm talking, okay?
And that itself is interesting, because you're going to sit there and tell me that Serena Williams, like I said, and this is why I said it's controversial, is because I forget what they call them, the umpire in tennis basically gave her 3 violations, which I did not know, because if you get 3 violations in tennis, apparently that you get fined, and she was talking. Now, I understand, like, for a guy who plays sports, you respect the referee. Sometimes the calls might be bullshit, you still respect them. You don't get up in the face, but, they do have to assert some sort of authority. However, in Serena's case, Serena was simply arguing about a call that was made, and the guy kept giving multiple penalties, which a lot of people, when they go back and watch the video on that, were like, why is he just, I mean, that's a little bit bland. I mean, that's a little bit extra. But again, Serena did have a point. She had a point to make about some fact of the matter was guys have done a lot worse than her and have gotten off a lot easier than she did. And the video showed, I mean, John McEnroe, I mean, he got disqualified. I mean, it took a while for him to get disqualified. The other guy with him kicked the line judge, and he got fined. Andre Agassi, which I haven't said a name, I haven't heard a name for in a long time, called her up a son of a bitch. But the thing about it is, all these actions of these men were way worse than what Serena did. So why is Serena being, I guess, under fire? Simply put, because she's a black woman. She's not only a woman, but a black woman, a very successful and very dominant player on the tennis court, a black woman who's so high profile that she could accept when she's lost. I mean, her sister has beaten her. Maria Sharapova has beaten her, even though she was juicing. She can handle a loss. But usually if the umpire costs you a game, yeah, you're going to get in their face a little bit. But at the same time, did it deserve the actual amount of penalties that she got? No. But it goes back to the whole thing about perception again. It goes to the whole thing about perception to where it is amazing that what one person can do and nothing happens, another person does the same thing and they get the book thrown at them. For guys, for black people, that's us. We can't, I mean, how many times in life have you been sitting there and said, you know, you've been probably told, well, you can't do what they do, or you can't say what they say, or you can't go where they go, you can't do this, or if you do that, this is what will happen. I can't tell you how many times that I've been told that I can't sit there and say what's on my mind that I have to be considering. When I sit there and see another guy say exactly what he wants to say, and he's applauded for it. And it's funny where, to use another example, just like when Cap became the face of Nike, some right-wing gun nut, Oakley shades wearing, Jeep driving, all-American from his Facebook Commando keyboard sat there and said, really, Nike, you can't find somebody else? And he used Pat Tillman. And it's funny and it's interesting where I sit there and go, you realize Pat Tillman was killed by friendly fire, and that's the guy you want to use? And I mean, the whole thing about sacrificing, because let's be honest, Cap sacrificed everything to believe. I mean, he believed his principles, stuck by it, and has rolled that wave out. He's been in the NFL for 2 years. So they can't sit there and say that he's trying to allow you back for a job when he's literally trying to say, hey, I'm trying to bring to light the injustices that are happening out here. You know, NFL is an afterthought, really. But it's amazing when, and I'm going to call it what it is. It's amazing when a white person speaks their mind, goes forward, they're bold, they're innovative, they're going to say what they want to say. A person of color does the same thing. They're angry, they're aggressive. Why are they acting this way? You know, we don't get this. I mean, for a lot of things where I tell people, I said, this is the reason why Serena wanted to bring this up. Is the fact of the matter is, you view us the same way. You view our stigma, but you don't view our individual. You don't view us in the same humane way that you view everybody else. And that alone, especially in the world of tennis, because like I said, in the world, it's almost like golf. If you could rewind the clock back a decade in golf, what was the one name you probably heard so much that pretty much brought golf to prime time? Tiger Woods. Say what you want about the man's character and taste in women, and simple fact of the matter, he couldn't keep his dick in his pants with his wife. When Tiger Woods came on the scene, PGA became fun again. PGA brought in a whole other group of people. Actually, I sit there and say Tiger Woods brought in Vijay Singh. He brought in I can't think of the other guy's name, but pretty much he brought in other minorities actually were invited to play in the sport because Tiger Woods again dominated for so long. And I remember Tiger Woods had his share of stuff. I mean, he had his share of controversy and calls and things of that nature. But when his fall from grace, and like I said, he's coming back into the PGA Tour now again, but let's also be honest, he energized a sport that was literally boring. But you've seen Venus and Serena and what they have done. Sisters, mind you, have came in and decided to dominate, really. If it wasn't one, it was the other. And we used to love the fact of, knowing that, Serena versus Serena and Venus would both play. And it's amazing to me how they would both sit there and be like, at the end of it all, somebody is going to win. That's just being honest. Somebody is bound to win. So we, never bothered us because of the fact of the matter. And that's the thing about it. And that's the thing about that. So what I'm trying to say about it, what I'm basically trying to say about all this is just that it is amazing to me about perception. And that's what I'm saying. Perception itself is the reason why I was like, got tongue tied for a second. Apologize, guys. So it's the reason why Serena's fighting so hard. And that's the point I'm trying to make to others. It's just that if you can't understand why she's fighting it, then basically your privilege is blinded you to it versus other stuff. But as long as we have that going on, and if you don't understand the struggle, then you're going to be part of the opposition. But that was the whole thing. Now, will the situation get better? I don't know. Because like I said, when it comes to sports, let's be honest, minorities are praised, but at the same time, we are handled. Now, I'm not saying Cap was one. Now, I'm not. When I say handle, I mean, oh yeah, we might be honored for our actions on the field or on the court or what have you. But at the moment we have an opinion that doesn't agree with people, all of a sudden now we have to sit there and go. Not have to sit there and say, well, we don't like them. And yeah, you're right, Vaughn. It's easy to understand. They don't care about us. And that's the truth. And it's just, like I said, in that case, Serena and Cap and a handful of other activists out there are pretty much saying, you may not like the wave of change that's coming, but you have to accept it. But we definitely don't have to sit there and be quiet about it. Because like I always said for us, fuck marching. I mean, not saying that if you want to march, you want to protest, that's fine. If you're marching, you're trying to protest, that's fine. I'm alongside the signs of saying, if marching doesn't work, then that's when we turn around and we go, fuck that. We are gonna, go a different route. If we can't hurt you there, we know we can hurt that checkbook. But we're gonna leave it there for right now because I realize I have went over the hour. So before I do go, there will be some shameless plugging. So like I said, thank you guys, thank you Vaughn, thank you BJ, thank you Thomas, thank you Carla, and all guys who are watching live. I say on the replay, so respond back to us as you've seen showing there. I have no problem talking to everybody because that's what I want to do with the show and actually want to go from there. But like I said, about Vaughn, Big BZ A. Who actually had his I get that reference VST, which was just not too long ago. He actually has a show, which is basically called I get the reference VST. You know what a VST is? A VST is like a 30-35 minute podcast about various news and tidbits that he goes over. He also has Rhythmness, which I believe, Vaughn, you said that was tomorrow, right? Yeah, please post that in the comment about the time. Where Rhythmness, where you can reminisce over the rhythm, where he will actually go over of several albums to a 3-tier rating system. Actually, it's a 4-tier, but we just can't say what the 4th one is here. You want to know what the 4th tier is? Go to Rhythmness to actually listen to that. Also, he has his Random As Book with Uncle VZ, which I believe, Vaughn, correct me if I'm wrong, that's going to be Saturday. But like I said, he actually also, where I said Random As Fuck, where he actually just goes over video news. And like I said, it's an interactive show across all 3 spectrums. So you'll be able to definitely talk to him there. Also, at the same time, our buddy Trace, who was actually here with us, especially Vaughn and Trace, were also with me and Thomas on the Off Limits podcast. But he was also Trace on the Bump Down, which I know that's happening tomorrow. Trace usually does post when the Bump Down is actually going to go down. As far as that, the Bump Down is also Trace's, I like to call it Trace's brainchild, because that is a very, very intelligent brother when it comes to music and it comes to underground, especially the main scene, and also with just random conversations that him and Bob will have. Very, very intelligent brother, very funny brother, and it's always with them two. It's always fun to watch. But again, definitely catch up on those because I like my show. Like I said, my show, How the Frack We Got Here, usually runs from 9 to 10. I know we ran a little bit late today. That's okay. And also the Off Limits podcast. which will also be airing Saturday from 2 to 3, which I'll probably have some guests on. I hope to have some guests on for this one, just like I did last Saturday, which was really fun. I got to actually have the whole IGR crew up in here with us. But all of our shows are actually available on the I Get That Reference podcast. And so I'm sorry, guys. The I Get That Reference Facebook page. I am honestly just woo. So I apologize. So if you're on Facebook and you're watching this, which is obvious because that's the only way it's being broadcast, unless you're on Instagram. If you're on Facebook, go to I Get That Reference. That's I Get That Reference with an I. We're the only video group that shows there. It is a group for all. When I say for all, I do mean everybody. It does not matter if you're white, black, polka dot, peanut ground. It doesn't matter if you're a geek or a blurred or just somebody who wants to meet people. As long as you're active, we love to have you, because we mean by active, we mean by simply posting something, talking to somebody, responding. Basically, use your social skills is what we basically said. As long as you do all that, you're fine. You be a creeper, chances are we're going to kick you out and probably report you to Chris Hansen. Aside from that, we do have our YouTube pages. Vaughn has his I Get That Reference, which is literally, if you type in the words I Get That Reference in YouTube, we'll bring up his YouTube page. Oh, excuse me. And also with mine, with the Off Limits podcast and How the Frack We Got Here. Also have YouTube pages where we post all of our podcasts there to where you can view, like, share, and subscribe. We also, Vaughn also has his audiomac.com. Please, oh please, Vaughn, in the comment section, put the link to audiomac.com where there are audio portions of his I Get That Reference VSTs. And he is ever approaching, he is ever so close. If I'm wrong, if I'm right, please tell me, Vaughn. He's approaching almost 100. And 100 podcasts is a serious sign of dedication, which I'll be honest, before I get to the end of this, I was actually inspired by Vaughn to start doing podcasts. So as I was watching him, I was there thinking to myself that, you know what, this is cool. I can do it because I've always wanted to talk to people, and I love talking to people, and I love talking, as you can see, over an hour of me talking. But want to give a shout out to Vaughn because he inspired me to do podcasts, and I'm hoping I can get Sir Thomas, because I have an idea we also have an idea for a podcast. We hope we can get him on there as well. But again, at the end of it all, where it gets to how the frack we got here, we only get here because simple fact of the matter is lack of information. I've said it best. If you go out and you actually have to do your own research, if you just don't accept everything at face value, and whatever you find, you show to others, and then others can go from there. It's the whole idea of searching to be informed. It's not listening to be informed. You're basically inspiring people to be searching to be informed, because an informed community, an informed city, an informed country can make a hell of a lot better decisions than an uninformed one, because an uninformed one will give you Trump. Please tell me I'm wrong about that, which I know I'm not. But again, guys, this has been How the Frack We Got Here. I've been Will Buchanan. Please check out the rest of our podcasts on the Facebook group I Get That Reference, and our YouTube pages. So one last thing. Vaughn actually does have a calendar on the I Get That Reference podcast that shows all the shows that are going down. I am procrastinately working on one, so that way I can make sure there's a schedule up for all the world to see as well. So that way you guys, and if they have anything else, always check our Facebook pages. Like I said, William Buchanan on Facebook's not too hard to find. Vaughn Stephen Westbrook's not too hard to find. Trace not too hard to find. Even Thomas, if we ever get him on this show, when I say get him his show, get him on our podcast, he's not hard to find as well. So we always usually post, if they're not available on the calendar, they'll be available there on our Facebook, to where we actually know we're going to repeat. But again, guys, thank you guys for all watching this. Like I said, on the playback, thank you all guys for watching as well. Just comment. I'm pretty sure I'm going to see it later, because I've somehow gotten Trump supporters. I'm a little worried. But then again, hey, you can convert them. It's been done. But anyway, guys, this has been How the Frack We Got Here. Hope you guys have a good night. Peace.